together, that it was one way that we might consider starting a family. And it took a while to actually get to the point where we went ahead and did it. And there were a number of things that led to that decision. But we both felt that it was a great way to create a family. There are so many children in the world that don't have families to raise them and love them. And we knew that we had a lot of love to give as parents. And we are incredibly blessed by the three most beautiful children that I could ever imagine having. And we're actually hoping to add a fourth one this year.
Wow. Were you having difficulty getting pregnant, or unable to get pregnant, or?
Well, it's actually a little bit of a long story, because my husband was married before. He was married for a long time before we met, and he has 3 adult children. And after his third child from his first marriage was born, he didn't think that he was going to be having any more children. So he went ahead and had a vasectomy, as you do, I guess, when you think you're done having a family. So when we met, I was aware of that fact, that if and when we were ready to start a family, that would be a potential issue that we would have to face at the time. And we decided at the time, because we weren't ready at that point to think of having children yet, we decided that when the time came that we would consider which way we could go ahead and have a family, regardless of that fact. So that was basically the reason.
I understand. Wow. So tell us a little bit about the process. What does someone go through to actually get to the end of the adoption, which is you get to go pick up your child? What happens between that and the beginning of a thought that I'm going to adopt? What's the process?
Well, it's a long process. And it's been different for us because of the fact that we were already living in Taiwan. If somebody was living in another country, such as in America or in Australia, and decided to adopt from Taiwan, they would, from what I understand, actually have to go through the whole process before they did come and pick up their child. Whereas because we are living here, we were actually able to go and bring our babies home right from almost birth. Our daughter was 2 weeks old when she came home. Our second son was also 2 weeks old, and our oldest son was 6 weeks old when we brought him home. So we were able to have our children with us from very early infancy, which I think is amazing. I'm so grateful that we've been able to do that. I can't imagine knowing that your baby is alive and not being able to actually go and bring them home right away. I think I'd just go crazy with that. So we've been very fortunate in that respect. But then from the time that we've actually brought them home, we've still had to go through all of the legal proceedings. And that actually something that I wrote recently for my website was a page on taking a leap of faith. And bringing our children home has involved a huge leap of faith, because in each case we know that for the up to the first year, our children are living with us, and they are in every way 100% our children, but that in the eyes of the court, that's not final yet. So at that point, anything could happen, but we've been very, very fortunate that everything has gone smoothly with the legal process, and all of our children now, we've completed all of the adoption procedures within the first year of each of their lives. And we're apprehensive, of course, about going through it again, because it is really scary. But you just have to trust that it's all going to work out, and that is your baby that's meant to be your baby, and that nothing is going to happen within the legal proceedings to cause a problem with that.
Wow. Are you still an Australian citizen?
Yes. Yes.
And your husband?
Yes, we're both Australian citizens. We don't, we only have visitors status in Taiwan, but that's okay. We can stay here with our visitors status, and our children actually are Taiwanese citizens at this stage. They all hold Taiwanese passports, And in the future, for them to also gain their status in Australia, we will have to take them back to Australia and go through a whole procedure of gaining them residency and then eventually citizenship. So in the future, they'll be able to have dual citizenship, which will be a wonderful thing for them. They can maintain their Taiwanese identity and citizenship, so in the future, perhaps they want to spend some of their time here. But also they'll have the opportunity of being in Australia, which is where they know that, you know, their mum and dad are from Australia, and they know that they're pretty much dual nationality, even though they don't have the paperwork for that yet. But they kind of identify themselves as being a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's really cool.
Fantastic. Right, so I'm also a little bit curious about, you wrote this book about adoption, and did you write it in mind to share your own experience and also perhaps help others to know what's coming, like get their expectations more ready?
I think as much as anything, my reason to start writing my story was the realization that biology is only one way of creating a family, and really wanting to share that thought as much as the whole experience. Everybody's experience will be different, but I think very much my focus was on the fact that because I didn't give birth to these children does not make them any less my own, and for, to help people to sort of realize that and understand that. I think it's very difficult to understand that, but I think that it's important because there are so many families these days that are being created in different ways than the traditional way, and it is, I think, really necessary for people to be aware of the fact that it is still